It is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to the management and staff of ministries, departments, and agencies as the Personnel Department embarks on an exciting journey of growth and development in 2025. As the Chief Personnel Officer, it is my privilege and responsibility to lead the charge in fostering a culture of continuous growth, professional excellence, and dedication to the public service. The Personnel Department has implemented several key initiatives aimed at building capacity within our team and the broader public service. There is an understanding that the world of public service is constantly evolving, and in order to meet the challenges ahead, we must invest in the skills, knowledge, and leadership abilities of our public officers. One of the most significant highlights of 2024 was the revision of the Personnel Department's organizational structure, which led to the transformation of the Human Resource Management Services Division into the Human Resource Management Compliance and Training Division. This strategic shift represents a more focused, compliance-oriented approach to human resource management, which is crucial for ensuring that we only meet not just our legal and regulatory standards, but also deliver the highest level of performance and service delivery to our stakeholders. Through the establishment of the new division, the Personnel Department has created a dedicated space for targeted training and professional development. This division is designed to drive strategic training initiatives that directly align with the evolving needs of the workforce. It allows us to better equip employees with the tools, knowledge, and skills required to succeed in an ever-changing public service environment. A cornerstone of our training program is the Performance Management and Appraisal System, commonly known as PMAS, which plays an integral role in fostering accountability and performance excellence within our MDAs. As part of our efforts to enhance ease of access to training and ensure that all public officers have the resources needed, we are proud to introduce a training video that supports PMAS. This resource will guide viewers through the key components of the PMAS system, providing them with a step-by-step overview of how to perform more effectively and engage with and utilize the system to improve performance, track goals, and measure success. Building capacity is at the heart of our vision, and we are fully committed to ensuring that public officers are well prepared to support and manage performance in the public service. We firmly believe that by investing time in the production of a video, it will offer adaptive learning possibilities that create personalized training learning paths for public officers based on their skills, learning preferences, and career goals. As we continue to build our achievements and embrace new opportunities, I encourage you to access this video via our e-learning resources and share your feedback with us. Together, we can build a stronger, more dynamic public service that is ready to serve the people with integrity, professionalism, and excellence. Thank you for your commitment and growth to development. Let us continue this journey together, striving to achieve our goals and improve public service institutions. I thank you.
Good morning, members of staff. My name is Shuma Edwards Jofield, and I am here this morning to take you through the performance management and appraisal system. Some of you may be aware that there was an old system in the past that we refer to as the confidential staff report. And that system was rigged with biases. And therefore, we went through a series of evolution until today we have the performance management and appraisal system, which is guided by the Shaping Performance Manual. Some of you may have seen it before, but everything that we are going to discuss today can be found in this manual. This underlying theme of performance management and appraisal system is what we refer to as no surprises. And when we think of no surprises, it therefore means there must always be ongoing communication between the supervisor and the person being reported on. And that is the only way that you can avoid surprises. This fosters a supportive environment because there is timely communication and timely feedback so that the employee has an opportunity to correct errors where they may arise. The employee also feels empowered because they feel a part of the appraisal system. So this regular communication provides an opportunity for employees to contribute to a more positive and productive work environment. During this ongoing communication between the supervisor and the employee, clear and unambiguous expectations should be made, clear and unambiguous instructions should be provided and agreed to at the beginning of the performance appraisal system. I'd like you now to reflect on a past experience you may have had. Can you recall a time when you received positive or negative performance? And how did that make you feel? Most likely, if you were given a positive appraisal, you would be happy. Or you may not even be happy if the discussion was not had before. So you may have feelings of anxiety when it's coming close to the appraisal system, the appraisal report. But once there's discussion before, there would be no surprises. If there were not discussions before, there can also be surprises if the report was bad. So as I was alluding to earlier, in order to avoid surprises, supervisor and employee supposed to engage in goal setting. So you can see it's a whole cycle. Engage in goal setting, have regular check-ins, provide feedback, which can be both formal as well as informal. There may be times you may have to reset your goals, and then you will do the performance appraisal evaluation. So the manager is expected to firstly meet with the employees on a regular basis throughout the year. Review specific accomplishments, establish goals, adjust goals on workload and other changes, and set priorities. So this ongoing communication allows the supervisor to support the employee to get the desired performance. And in that way, there won't be any surprises. The end goal is for the organization to achieve its goals and objectives. Based on what was shared, can you define for me performance management? Well, let's take a look at the other slide. We see some key words coming out here. Performance management should firstly be ongoing. So it's ongoing between the supervisor and the employee throughout the year in support of accomplishing the strategic objectives of the organization. So it's ongoing, which means there's a systematic, a planned approach to managing performance. Systematic means there are well-defined steps, and those steps can be found on page 7 of the Shaping Performance. All the steps are clearly outlined, and you can turn to it in your free time. It's planned, meaning that performance, it's not spontaneous. So you do not just decide that it's time to do the appraisal, but you plan it properly rather than have it done in an ad hoc way. And the ultimate goal is to manage the employee's performance, where you as the supervisor will focus on actively managing and improving the performance by setting SMART goals. And when we consider the strategic objectives of the organization, we would look at maybe the vision and the mission of the organization. So when we're setting the SMART goals, as I was saying earlier, the ultimate goal is to have goals that are specific, meaning that they are results to be achieved, measurable. That means you can quantify whatever it is you're measuring. It can be quantified. There are specific metrics to guide the process. It's achievable, which means it's achievable or attainable, which means while it's achievable, there must be a degree of challenge, and the challenge allows for growth. Relevant, it must be aligned to the organizational goals and the employee's role, and it must be time-bound. Now, the reason why this is not the SMART goal, this is the SMARTer model, which is an addition to the SMART goals, which means at times you may need to do some evaluation. You may have to add a duty, or you may have to remove a duty because maybe there has been some realignment with the organization. So that is where the evaluation comes in, and then you need to readjust. So this is the representation of the SMARTer model. I have prepared a job description. So if I am to associate this SMARTer goal with the role of a clerical officer, and the clerical officer will have a job purpose, which is being responsible for providing general clerical and administrative support to the department. This role will have key responsibilities such as data entry, record keeping, document preparation, and the qualifications and so on. But if we are to consider such a job and apply this SMARTer model to it, then firstly there will be collaborative goal setting, which will involve the employee being a part of the process, ensuring that there is buy-in and ownership. Understand? Also, there will be regular check-ins, schedule regular one-on-one meetings with the employee to discuss their progress and to address any challenges that they may have, as well as to provide some degree of feedback. Because as the saying goes, feedback is the breakfast of champions. And the closer you give feedback to an action, whether it's a negative action, it can be addressed and corrected immediately. And if it is a positive, then it certainly does allow for some degree of reinforcement. And that continuous feedback is timely and is constructive throughout the year. As I said, it can be both positive and negative. So if we were to consider the position description, as I mentioned, that of the clerical officer, let us try to apply the SMARTer goal model to that. The SMARTer goal will be to set effective goals for this clerical officer using the SMARTer model framework. And the goal will be firstly to improve data entry accuracy by 10% within the next quarter. Specific, reduce data entry errors in the next quarter by 10%. So that is going to be specific. Measurable, track the number of errors the officer is making periodically. That will be something that you will be measuring as the supervisor. Achievable or attainable. Implement some degree of double entry or verification. That is how you're going to be checking, and the supervisor will be the one who will be doing this. When we look at relevant, we look at how accurate the data entry is for this operation that is being conducted. And of course, time bound, meaning that this clerical officer has to achieve this goal by the next quarter. So when this is done, of course, evaluated, where the supervisor is monitoring error rates monthly and making adjustments where necessary. And revise or readjust means, if necessary, adjust the targets or timelines based on how well the officer is performing. So here we are seeing an interaction between the supervisor and the employee. It's a mutual agreement to achieve the goal of the organization. And the supervisor is also providing support to assist the officer in achieving the targets set. Because as you saw earlier, they met and together they sat down and they set specific goals, right? And these goals are what we are saying must follow the SMARTer model. The reason why we have performance management systems in place is to increase performance. It's to create a performance culture in an organization. It is to provide trust and mutual respect between the supervisor and the employee. It also encourages employee development, because when the supervisor interacts with the employee, they may identify areas, whether it be for training in your current position or for development in a future position. And of course, there's always that continuous element of dialogue where weaknesses can be addressed immediately. When we do not prepare performance appraisal reports on time, when it's submitted late, we are faced with there are a number of consequences associated with that. Can you identify any of those issues, whether you have been faced or someone you know faced because of either the late submission of an appraisal or the non-submission of an appraisal? Shanice?
Yes, I can. Good morning, everyone. So I'm not going to name the officer, but last quarter, a supervisor would have submitted a PAR report quite late, and that would have affected this officer's ability to set goals and correct some of the issues that would have occurred within the quarter. And that in and of itself would have really damaged the trust and respect that this person would have had with their supervisor.
Thank you very much, Shanice. Quite correctly, by doing the appraisal late and identifying gaps that require training, when we do not address these things immediately, the training that you are recommending now for a former period will or may not even be applicable. So that is very true. Thank you for your comment, Shanice. Additionally, in the public service, persons are affected in several ways when we either do the appraisal late or we do not do them at all. One way is it affects the payment of increments. We know that the increments should be paid annually. And when we do not do them on time, we do not grade the person on time, and therefore the person cannot be awarded an increment on time. And the current value of money is not the previous value of money. So what they could have done with it some years ago, they can't do those things now. Additionally, it affects the payment of acting allowance, because when we are doing the delegated responsibility, we need to say when last a performance appraisal was done on someone. Promotions. We also know that this affects promotions, because the Public Service Commission would need to, when they're making a when the Service Commission is making a recommendation for promotion, they would like to see what the last grade was on that performance appraisal report, as well as appointments. And these two are similar, because from time to time, when the DPA has to make these promotions or appointments, they would reach out to HR and ask for these appraisals. Sometimes they may even inform the ministry that they are awaiting these appraisals, or they are promoting this person subject to the submission of the performance appraisals. So when we do not do the appraisals on time, they affect persons. So when we are conducting our daily duties, we must be mindful how important this is to the growth, and also to the career development of fellow public officers. Similarly, there are consequences for doing the performance appraisal late. Can anyone identify any consequence of doing the performance appraisal late? There are several negative impacts of not submitting the performance appraisal late. Consider not doing a performance appraisal late, and we have a non-performance culture in our organization, because there's lack of accountability and there's decline in overall performance. How will that contribute to the overall organization? What about health and safety issues? Health and safety accidents caused by oversights and accidents, which can have serious consequences for employees and the organization. Time and money wasted in legal challenges. We see this all the time, where either the PSA gets involved or the person brings in their lawyer. From time to time, there are some judicial review cases that we can refer to, and they go on for years and years because we did not complete the person's appraisal on time, because they didn't, and which would have contributed to them getting an increase, which would have caused maybe not being promoted. So time and money wasted in legal challenges. Also, poor performance. With timely feedback and performance reviews, employees may not be aware of the areas where they need to improve. And this can lead to continued poor performance, as well as missed opportunity for development, as Shanice spoke about earlier. Disengaged employees. Employees may feel undervalued and demotivated if they do not receive regular recognition or regular feedback. And this can lead to disengagement. Delays. Late performance appraisal reports can delay important decisions like what we said earlier, promotions, increments, training opportunities, and this can hinder the employee's growth and performance. Problems with interpersonal relationships. This can result based on conflicts, because I am now upset that my supervisor is not doing my report, knowing that I have performed to the best of my ability. So now there is conflict between the supervisor and myself. And of course, mistrust of HR and the management, where employees feel a lack of commitment to their professional development, and this erodes the trust between HR and management. So timely submission of performance appraisal reports are critical in maintaining a positive work environment, as well as fostering employee development and ensuring the overall success of the organization. But there are also positives involved. Positives such as improved and high performance employees, employee engagement, employee loyalty, and of course, job satisfaction. But what is interesting also is that the performance appraisal report and performance management is underpinned by the regulatory framework. Are you or can you identify any elements of the regulatory framework which underpins performance management? Anyone? Violet?
Good morning. Yeah, Shema, the Public Service Commission Regulations, Chapter 4, could be used, is used when we, for the framework, as well as the Shaping Performance Manual.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Violet. Indeed, Chapter 4 of the Public Service Regulation, and in particular, Chapter 4, Regulations 34, 35, 41, and 42. I'd like us to take some time to look at these regulations because they are critical to the effective performance of HR officers and managers in applying the performance appraisal system. I view this as the foundation of getting this thing right, because we have been going on with performance appraisal since in the 1990s. But even today, 2024, we're still not getting it correctly. So let's take some time and examine chapters 34 and 35 of the regulation. I'm just going to try to summarize it. So 34.1 says that the role of the PS or the head of department is to, 1, forward to the DPA in respect of all officers who are within the scale of pay a staff report. And they are to do that not later than 60 days before an increment is due. So it is not supposed to be that the HR officer is sending it to the supervisor 60 days before, but it's supposed to get to the director, meaning the director of personnel administration, 60 days before an increment is due for persons within the scale of pay, meaning if persons have to get an increment. And for persons at fixed pay, or those or at maximum or at the longevity points, no later than the anniversary date of the appointment. Right? So we are guided by the regulations. Are we doing that? Are we doing that? And my response will be no. Because last week someone called me and asked me about an appraisal they had for 2014 and 2017 and how they should go about grading someone like that. And if they can give them a good, because the supervisor marked the report but did not put a grade. Why should we have in our possessions these reports in 2024 for 2014, for 2017, even for 2020? Also, the regulation says that the staff report should provide an unbiased assessment of the officer's performance conduct over the past 12 months, as well as to indicate any future prospects. So when you're now doing an appraisal for 2014, what future prospects we could possibly be talking about? Section 35 emphasizes the importance of providing timely feedback to officers. It says that in order that an officer may be given every opportunity to correct any shortcomings which he may evince during the course of the 12-month period of service, the PS or head of department shall, as and when such shortcomings are noticed, cause the officer to be informed in writing thereof. So if adverse markings are included on the performance appraisal, the officer should be informed before it is submitted to the Director of Personnel Administration. This ensures that the officer has the opportunity to address the issues and improve their performance. The regulatory framework also speaks about persons who are under probation, and that is addressed at section 41 and 42. In that case, it mentions that persons should be provided with sympathetic supervision and given every opportunity to improve, as opposed to waiting for the whole probationary period to elapse and then now be doing the report. It also guides us in submitting. Let us look at the regulation. Regular reports. It recommends multiple confidential reports being submitted to the DPA and, of course, a final report. If we are to consider the shaping performance, as I mentioned earlier, the shaping performance is like the Bible for performance management. Page 7 outlines the steps. It details the steps to follow. Also, the shaping performance tells us about how to do position descriptions. It also provides some action words that we can use to help us in preparing those position descriptions. On page, and you can find that on page 14. Page 18 guides you on how to develop those position descriptions. Page 22 shows you how to develop standards to be associated with those duties. Page 31 tells you how to support the employee. And of course, page 43, which is very, very important, it tells you that the performance appraisal is a confidential report. It also shares how to deal with reports where you have multiple supervisors. So all the questions you can possibly have that's associated with performance appraisals can be found in this document. You just need to take your time and go through it and inform your staff about, and managers, on the benefits of this shaping performance. It provides a comprehensive guide. Additionally, we have circulars from the Service Commissions Department, from the Director of Personnel Administration, as well as from the CPO, and also from the Minister of Finance. So if we are to consider some circulars from the DPA, we have specific guidelines and instructions on performance management. The DPA Circular number 2 of 1975 states that it's a confidential staff report and it should normally be signed by the officer's immediate supervisor, who should be at least 1 grade above the officer reported on and at a level no later than Clerk 4. Yes, so that is circular number 2, DPA circular, 2nd of April, 1975. So even if there is a messenger who is a senior officer in a section, or a maid, because they can be supervising persons of a lower level, they cannot sign the report. it has to be a person of a grade, 2 grades above, but also, and most importantly, not lower than Clerk 4 or range 30C. Right? Because we have these instances occurring. Also, DPA circular dated 3rd of April 1991. It also gives guidance on performance ratings, as well as cases where the reporting officer may be in a different location, that's the countersigning officer. So you may be working directly with your supervisor, but the person who is the countersigning officer may be at a different location. So for example, at this same ministry here, the countersigning officer may be at a remote location, and it provides guidance on that. It gives the officer being reporting on the opportunity to initial that they have seen the report thus far. Also, DPA Circular 10, DPA Circular dated 10 of December 9 of 2001 advises permanent secretaries and heads of departments that disciplinary proceedings may be instituted for persons who fail to submit the performance appraisals on time. So it doesn't go unnoticed. So that person who asked me last week about an appraisal for 2017, I should definitely have been directing them to this circular. Not so? Because this DPA circular says that disciplinary action can be instituted against persons for the late submission of performance appraisal reports. CPO circulars also provide guidance. We have circular dated 20th of September 1999, which advises permanent secretaries and head of departments to ensure that position descriptions are done and that they are refreshed. Do you all have position descriptions for all of your positions? Do you? Yes? Well, that is commendable. CPO Circular 1 of 1973 also provides the machinery that can be used when appeals are required. And that is what instituted the Joint Consultative Committee. So I would urge you, if you do not have a functional JCC, you should start doing so now, because should there be an appeal, you would need the JCC to assist in resolving such a problem. So overall, the regulatory framework for performance management in Trinidad and Tobago is complex, and it involves various documents. Oh, I did not touch the guidelines. Page 14 of the guidelines, the revised guidelines, provides some information. It's not a gamut of information. It's probably about 4 to 6 paragraphs on how to treat with performance appraisal reports for person engaged on contract. It also has a grievance procedure if the person is not satisfied with their performance appraisal. But what I'd like to point out with this policy guideline, it's a decision of cabinet. It's a decision of cabinet, which means you cannot alter this. Because some persons are inclined to add something because they thought it was forgotten. This is a decision of cabinet that cannot be altered, except, of course, by cabinet. Any questions? Who has access to the reports? This is an interesting question, not so? Because we all have cameras now. Who has access to the report? Not the typist or the clerk stenographer, but the CPO for the office of the CPO, for the ministries, the permanent secretary, or the heads of department. These are the persons who have access. The countersigning officer has access. The supervisor has access. The employee has access, as well as HR. So what we are seeing here is that the supervisor is reporting on the employee. So there's the interaction. And they are the ones who have access to the report. And once that is done, the supervisor will take the report to the countersigning officer, who would have been keeping abreast of the employee's performance. So that is like a second check to ensure that the person's performance is properly reported on. And then it goes, the countersigning officer sends it under confidential cover to HR. Not just putting it in an unsealed envelope and leaving it in a dip, but under confidential cover and sends it to HR. And then, of course, HR will send it up to the head of department, recommending or not recommending an increment. Interestingly, when this report is done and it goes to HR, HR needs to peruse this document for completeness. HR also needs to look at the report to see if there are any recommendations for training and extract those training and feed it into a training plan. Many times these reports, when they go to HR, go on the person's file and stays there, which results in them not getting an increment, which creates a hostile environment to work in, which leads to litigation. So HR knows, they know what they have to do. So when it gets to HR, you examine it for completeness, you send it up to the head of department to award the increment or not award the increment. When it gets back, you do the needful, which is to send it to accounts. And of course, if there are any recommendations for training, you extract that and you feed that into your training plan. And that is how the organization grows and develops. We will now look at the three components of the performance appraisal management system. So we said it's a cycle. It's a cycle where we plan, we support, and of course, we do a review. So at the planning stage, supervisor and employees sit and they set standards of performance and expectations. They develop a work plan. They reach an agreement and they sign. One of the fundamental things here is that they reach an agreement and they sign. So once they have reached that agreement, both the supervisor as well as the employee know what the goals and what the expectations are. So when it's time to measure, both persons will know if they are achieving their targets. The supporting element of the cycle, the employee would perform their job, the supervisor will be providing regular feedback, coaching, training as the case may be to help that employee to achieve their task. And then of course, they are going to do the review, which is going to complete the performance appraisal review. So I may ask you the question, what are the three elements of the performance appraisal cycle? So first we plan, and then we support, and then finally we review. And of course, it's not a one-time thing. It's ongoing. And who are the 5 persons involved who are supposed to have access to the report? We have the supervisor and the employee, and then it goes to the countersigning officer, then it goes to HR, and then of course it will go to the head of department or the CPO, the PS, or whoever. Planning performance outlines the key steps involved in the initial phase of performance management. It emphasizes the importance of aligning individual performance with the broader organizational goals. Let's summarize the steps. Identify the objectives of the organization. And this is where it clearly defines the organization goals and the missions. Then, of course, develop a strategic plan. And this strategic plan is the roadmap to achieving the organizational objectives. Share the mission and vision and objectives. So as a supervisor, your role is to communicate the organization's direction and goal to all employees that you supervise. Create and update position descriptions. So what this is saying is that the position descriptions, they are not static. They're dynamic, they can be changed. So if your unit is realigned, if your division, your ministry is realigned, these documents would need to be amended, adjusted, and updated. So create and update position descriptions for each position. Translate responsibilities, duties, and tasks to employees. As a supervisor and manager, your responsibility is to clearly communicate the individual expectations and how that employee will contribute to the organizational goals. Conduct face-to-face discussions with staff. This is the opportunity to have face-to-face discussions, open and ongoing communication to discuss roles, expectations, goals, and even challenges which may exist, and of course address them, as opposed to waiting until the end of the 12-month period to now be addressing them. So by following these steps, organization can ensure that they have a strong foundation for effective performance management, where the individual is aligned to the overall objectives of the organization. And if we follow these step-by-step recommendations, we should not have any appeals. It's when we do not follow them that we are bogged down with the appeals. So do you know what the vision and the mission is, or what they are for the personnel department? The vision. So the vision of the department is to be the employer of choice, excelling in the provision of human resource management and industrial relation solutions within the public sector. You all ever saw this before? The employer of choice. This implies that the organization strives to create a positive work environment where employees are valued and motivated. Effective performance management practices such as regular feedback, recognition, development opportunities all contribute to the vision. Let's now consider how we can excel in HR and IR solutions. This suggests that the organization is committed to providing high-quality HR services, including performance management, and also that the organization has well-defined performance management policies, procedures, and tools to support the HR objectives. And we saw that we had the public service regulations, we had the circulars from the DPA as well as from the service commissions. We also have circulars from the Ministry of Finance. We have the revised guidelines. We have the shaping performance. We have all these policies ensuring that as a department, we can excel in HR and IR solutions. Let us now consider the mission. As a strategic partner, we collaborate to develop and negotiate terms and conditions of employment and to create and implement forward-looking HR solutions in support of good governance and service excellence. So we are strategic partners, which indicates that the organization views performance management as a strategic tool to achieve goals. And so by setting clear expectations and goals and providing that regular feedback and of course recognizing and rewarding performance, the organization can now align the individual and the team performance with the strategic objectives. Let us now look at forward-looking HR solutions. This suggests that the organization is committed to continuous improvement in its performance management practices. This may involve adopting new policies, adopting new technologies, implementing innovative performance management strategies, as well as reviewing regularly and updating our policies. In essence, the vision and mission sets the stage for performance management system. Yes? So we have examined the position description. I told you it can be found on page 14. Yes, page 14 of the Shaping Performance, right? You can find it here. As a ministry or department, you are developing your position descriptions. The recommendation is to identify the duties. List the duties on a separate line. Use action verbs. So start it off with an action verb, right? So let us imagine that we have done that. We have looked at the position of the clerical officer, and we've identified 4 duties. And we identify by asking, what 4 duties must be performed for this person to accomplish the task of clerical officer? Remember we mentioned that the clerical officer has to do some data entry and it must be accurate and so on. So we are now going to set some standards for that job. Standards are very important because remember we are measuring performance. So we have to have something to measure. So let us look at the standards. Oh, we're still looking at the So let us examine position description, page 14 of the Shaping Performance. So the position description, have you all ever heard the term position description? You think it's different or the same thing to job description? You think so? Okay, so let's move ahead. So we'll clarify that. So the position description is a document that identifies in specific terms the duties as well as the standards of performance. And it must be relevant to a specific job in a particular workplace. And this is a crucial document in performance management. It must be clear and easy to understand. And when we say it's clear, it means it outlines in specific terms the duties and the responsibilities of a particular job. Performance standards establishes clear performance standards against which an employee's work can be measured, and we're going to get into that a little later. So is there a difference between a position description and a job description? Anyone? Shelley?
I would say yes. The position description is used to manage performance, whereas the job description is used for classification purposes and job audits.
Thank you very much. So it's the job description for classification purposes and job audits, and the position description for?
Performance.
To manage performance.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shelley. So based on this diagram, the job description is generic. It provides a general overview of the particular job. It focuses on core duties and responsibilities common to that type of job across the different organizations. And that's why Shelley said it's used for job audits and for classification. So you classify the job based on the job description. But in a broader scope, it covers a wide range of tasks and responsibilities that may be applicable to various positions with the same job category. The position description, on the other hand, is specific, and it's tailored to a particular position within an organization, providing detailed information about specific duties and responsibilities and performance standards, which is why Shelley mentioned for performance management. It may include such things as qualifications, experience, or skills which are unique to that position. Right? So the job description is broader and a more general document, whereas a position description is specific to a role in a unit, in a department. Yes? So if there is a clerk one in registry and a clerk one in HR, the functions are different, and therefore the position descriptions will be different. So when as a supervisor, you are appraising the person in the registry, you cannot use the position description for the person in HR. So the position description has several elements. Firstly, the date of preparation. So that will be the date that you are engaged with your subordinate, having that discussion and preparing the job description. You'd use that date. The position title. So if it's a clerk one, the division or the section that the person belongs to. The authors. So it might be, if I'm the AO4 and I'm supervising a clerk 4 and a clerk 3, I'm the one doing the appraisal, so I would be the author as well as the clerk 4 or the clerk 3, as many persons as I will be supervising. The function of the position. This section comes really from the vision and the mission. Why is this position in the organization? It's to achieve a certain function, a certain duty. So you need to state what that position is doing. Reporting relationships. So it might be the clerk 4 having to supervise whomsoever we have those listed. What the role is authorized to do. So if it is an accounting person, they may be authorized to print checks. If it is the clerk, one in registry, they may be authorized to file documents accurately, then the person would have to liaise with someone. Maybe they may have to liaise with the PS, you may have to liaise with HR, may have to liaise with the director corporate. So that is what you have to, at this section you're going to put who the role is liaising with. The major duties. This is now where you're going to list what the major duties of this role is. So you list them in order of priority. You use the action verbs. Be very clear in this area. No ambiguity. And of course, what is not written here is that the document must be signed and dated by both parties. So we'll consider the exercise I was speaking about earlier. The exercise is for you to develop a position description for any position in your organization. So you ask yourself the question, if the purpose of this position is to be satisfactorily achieved, what are the major duties that are to be carried out? Understand? So if, as a supervisor, you are now engaging in developing a position description for a cashier at the treasury, you may ask yourself, if the purpose of the cashier is to be satisfactorily achieved, what are the major duties that must be carried out? Right? So you'll take some time and you'll do that exercise. And these are the guidance. Write each duty on a separate line. List the duties in order of priority. At the start of each duty, use action verbs such as organizes, prepares, represents. You can find guidance on the action verbs in the shaping performance. I want you to observe that I'm always referring you to the shaping performance. Additionally, clear, concise language must be used. So there are no excuses when it's time to measure. I didn't understand, it was unclear. So we're now going to consider some standards, because as supervisors, you are responsible for measuring the performance, and you can only measure that if there are standards associated with it. Not based on how you feel or what someone told you, but the fundamental theme of this training is no surprises. And no surprises can only be achieved if what you are measuring and my expectations are based on the goals that were set. Right? So let us look at standards. Standards are points of measurement by which the supervisor determines whether or not the employee is performing satisfactorily in that job or duty. So it's a point of measurement. And these standards provide a benchmark against which the employee's performance is being evaluated. The supervisor, on the other hand, is using these standards to determine whether an employee is meeting the expectations or not. So it's not based on feeling, but it's based on the standards that have been set. This is what you're using to measure, to see if the worker has achieved the target. Then we're looking at the results. The desired results, these are standards which specify the outcomes or the results that are expected when the job is performed satisfactorily. Based on the slide says that it's the results we wish when a job is satisfactorily performed. Additionally, it's a condition or a statement of conditions that will exist when a particular job is performed satisfactorily. So these standards outline the specific conditions or the circumstances that must be met. And they include things such as quality, quantity, time, accuracy, adherence to procedures. So this is the criteria that this supervisor is going to measure someone against. Any questions? Am I ambiguous? Am I clear? Let us look at Simone again. Simone is saying, I knew the job and the task. So this is the criteria for success. In order to achieve the desired outcomes, you must understand the standards. You must know the criteria for success and how to achieve your goals. She said, I was told the scoring criteria. So she had a clear vision of where she wanted to go and what success looked like. And she maintained her focus. I practiced and received the right training and relevance. So regular training is important. It's essential to develop skills, to correct persons when they are not meeting the standards, to provide the guidance and the support to help, as I'm sure her coach did. As well, she knew what the winning routine would look like. So at times as supervisors, we would need to provide the resources and the support necessary to help the persons we are supervising to achieve the results. And this context can be applied to performance management, not so? Based on what you saw there in Simone Biles executing that routine, it can be applied. Agreed? So employees should have a clear understanding of performance expectations, receive appropriate training, and be provided with necessary resources to succeed. And of course, Simone achieved her goal. So if we were to go back to that first job, that position description that I mentioned earlier, that of the clerical officer, that had to do some data entry and record keeping, so we can examine some of the standards that would be relevant. When we are setting standards, they must be SMART, meaning they must be specific, which is that they must be clearly defined and easy to understand. Also, they must be measurable. That means they must be quantifiable with specific metrics. They must be attainable. While attainable, they must also challenge the employee so that there can be some growth. Also, they must be relevant to the job, which means aligned to the organizational goals, and they must have a definite start time and an end time. So that means they must be time bound. So by setting SMART goals, organizations can ensure that performance expectations are clear, measurable, and achievable. And this leads to employees' improved performance. The goals also must be tied to organizational objectives and critical success factors. This means that the individual's performance goals are now contributing to the overall organizational goals. When we look at page 22 of the Shaping Performance, it refers to it not as SMART, but as START. But the information is still the same: specific, time-bound, attainable, and related and tied. So let's examine some important things to consider when setting standards. Based on the slide, it says that in some cases, predetermined standards are set for a job, irrespective of the employee performing it. It can be based on experience of the supervisor or colleague, or established regulations or procedures. And what that basically means when it says job-specific standards, these standards are based on the requirements of the job itself rather than the individual. For someone working at the customs department, they would have job-specific requirements. For someone working in health, they will have different job requirements. When we look at experience-based, sometimes standards are set based on the experience of the supervisors or colleagues who have performed them in the past. Standards are also, as we said, established based on regulations. So the procurement legislation will have some requirements. The ILO conventions will be relevant to the Ministry of Labor, so those standards will be relevant. In terms of engineers, we will have the ISO 8000 or 8001 standards. So these regulatory standards are necessary, and they are mandated industry standards that must be realized in order to successfully achieve a job. By using these predetermined standards, organizations can ensure consistency in performance expectations and evaluations. So based on the standards, when as supervisors and managers, you set standards to evaluate employees, we look at 3 different elements. It must meet quality standards, quantity standards, and the time standards. When we speak about quality, we're speaking about accuracy for in the accounting environment, precision, overall excellence of work. It also involves producing work that meets or exceeds expectations in terms of correctness. And many times, when appraisals are being done on persons, the question is asked, how do you know if to give someone an outstanding? And that is because the person consistently meets and exceeds the performance. And you can find that at page 6 of the performance appraisal report. So as a supervisor, you should not be asking a question like that, because you have been measuring all along and you have been documenting, right? So once you, over the period of time you're having your discussions, you have recognized that someone is consistently exceeding, then it goes to reason that that person can get an outstanding. So you shouldn't be asking that question. The other element is quantity. This refers to the amount of work produced within a given time frame. It involves being productive, efficient, completing tasks in a timely basis. So on a monthly basis, you may be required to maybe evaluate 10 jobs a month. That might be the standard. At the end of the month, you as the employee, having looked at your work for the month, you will know if you have met your standards or if you are falling short, and know what you have to do to improve. So at the end of the reporting period, when you get a grade, you will be fully aware why you got that grade and not seek legal action and say your grade was inaccurate. And finally, time. This refers to the speed and the efficiency with which work is completed. It involves managing time appropriately and prioritizing work as well as meeting deadlines. Let us take some time to look at some examples of some standards of quality, just to reinforce what was said. Accuracy in payroll processing. Ensuring that the employee's payroll calculations, including deductions, taxes, and benefits, are 100% accurate. We're now looking at quality. Agreed? Compliance with regulations. Adhering to all financial regulations, tax regulations, and company policies during payroll processing to avoid legal issues and penalties. Error rate. Maintaining a low error rate, perhaps 5% in payroll-related documentations such as pay slips and TD4s. So this is one example or three examples of meeting quality standards. Let us examine quantity. The number of payroll processed. Processing specific number of payrolls within a given period. For example, 50 employees every month. So that is measurable. Handling employees' inquiries. Resolving a set of employee payroll-related inquiries or issues from employees within a week. That is also measurable. Documentation updated, which refers to completing updates to employees' payroll records, such as changes in salaries or benefits. So when you get an increment or if you change your deduction, so you do that within the specific time frame, 100% of all requested updates within a pay period. So that is quantity. And if we are looking at time, we're looking at time frames for payroll distribution, which means ensuring payroll is processed and distributed to employees by a specific deadline. Response time to inquiries. Responding to payroll-related queries from employees within a specific time frame. Turnaround time for corrections. Correcting any payroll errors and reissuing payments within a specific period. So these are some examples of standards that can be measured by the supervisor as well as the individual themselves to know if they are meeting the standards and what their grade can possibly be like. So it goes right back to that first slide we started with earlier. No surprises, because both the supervisor and the person themselves, they are both measuring, and the results should be the same if we are honest with ourselves. So let us look at this example now. We are trying to identify quantity, quality, and time. All incoming mail on each day should be opened and recorded in the file register before 4 p.m. on that day. Yes, so quantity will be all incoming mail. Quality, it must be recorded in the file register. So at no time you should go in the file register on a file and file a document and find a document which was not recorded in the file register. And the time frame is 4 p.m. on that day. Right? Secondly, let's look at this example. Plan and implement workshops. That's the duty. A workshop report must be prepared after every workshop using the report format. It must be sent to the senior officer for review no more than 1 week after the completion of the workshop. So we can see also elements of quantity, quality, and time. Quantity will be A workshop report must be prepared after every workshop using the report format, and it must be sent to the Senior Officer of Review no more than 1 week after, so that will be the time element. We look at one more. On each day, the cashier must be at the workstation. This is a nice one. At least 10 minutes before the office opens to the public. So the quantity is each day. Be at the workstation is quality, and the time at least 10 minutes before the office opens. So when preparing standards to be associated with the duties, they must meet the quality, quantity, and time standards, because this is what you as a supervisor will be measuring. In the absence of that, you'll be going on emotions, right? And then you'll start to introduce biases, which cannot be measured, cannot be quantified. Supervisors and managers also have responsibilities. They have responsibilities to plan and coordinate, which means they are responsible for scheduling work and for organizing work, for allocating resources, for setting goals and objectives. They're also responsible for development of staff, and they provide training and development opportunities, coaching as well as mentoring of employees. They also are responsible for building the team, and when they do that, they are fostering a positive and a collaborative work environment. They're encouraging teamwork and cooperation. We're also looking at safety awareness. So they are responsible for conducting regular safety checks and training, as well as ensuring that there is compliance with safety regulations. The supervisor or manager is supposed to also actively listen and effectively communicate with employees, and that is the communication skills. They're also supposed to demonstrate initiative, taking ownership for tasks and projects, interpersonal skills, handling conflicts, as well as being punctual and regular, and that will demonstrate the work ethic. So do you remember what the SMART acronym means? Specific. So yes, the standard's supposed to be specific, not ambiguous, measurable, attainable or achievable, and time-bound. These are the different roles in the planning process. So as a supervisor, you are responsible to review the organization's strategic goals, guide the development of the position description, discuss that position description with the employee, clarify performance ratings, sign off on the position description, and also provide a copy of the position description to HR. So that is the role of the supervisor. The employee also has a role. The employee's role is to examine the goals of the division and identify how they can contribute to its achievement, as well as be prepared to discuss with the supervisor and contribute to the development of the position description. And earlier we saw the countersigning officer. So the countersigning officer also has a role to discuss the organizational goals and the divisional goals with the supervisor and approve the position description of the employee. And of course, HR has a role to play, which is to guide supervisors in the preparation of the position description and ensure that a copy of the position description is on the employee's file. So this is the role of the supervisor, the employee, the countersigning officer, and HR in the planning process. So that brings us to the end of the planning process. So that's only one part. We're now going to look at how you as supervisors can support the process.